The theme of this early season is patience and the process. It was tested Saturday night in a 6-1 loss at the hands of the Montreal Canadiens. But as a young team is building and systems are being implemented, you look for encouragement. These Leafs need only to return to 48 hours before the Montreal loss to find optimism. These are moments to gravitate to. Ones they will need today as the St. Louis Blues visit the Air Canada Centre.
Like the stock market and the Dow Jones Industrial, the pendulum swung last week for the Toronto Maple Leafs. What a contrast from a trip to Detroit and a home date with the Habs. This afternoon in Toronto, it is the St. Louis Blues. And it's right here on Leafs TV. Puck drops at 1 o'clock. Hi, everybody. I'm Jody Vance, along with play-by-play man for the Leafs. You know him, you love him, Joe Bowen, our hockey analyst, Mark Morrow, and our senior reporter and co-host for the program, Paul Henrik. Hi, guys.
I can't, every time you say that, I can't help but giggle. I don't know. Senior reporter. I love it.
You love it, and you love giving him a hard time about it, but that's what we love you for. That's right. So let's talk about the fact that we're here awfully early.
What's that all about?
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I can't remember the last regular season game that we had that was a 1 o'clock start. I know we've had afternoon games in Toronto, 4 o'clock starts and 3 o'clock starts. Last year, of course, was Hockey Day in Canada. And then I think prior to the Olympics one year, they played early. But other than a playoff game, I don't know if we've ever had a 1 o'clock start in a long, long time. However, with all of the melatonin I've got in me right now, I'm not sure I want to play hockey right now anyway.
You're
I know
like
that a lot
turkey.
of teams are very upset about having to play at home on Thanksgiving Day in the States just for that simple reason of getting into the food.
Listen, I'm going to give you guys the benefit of the doubt and certainly hope you're not complaining because as a former American Hockey League player, a 1 o'clock start usually occurred for us on a regular basis on a Sunday afternoon, and this is after we had played on the Friday and Saturday, all three on the road, Thanksgiving or not. I'd be lucky to get a turkey during the season, so I certainly hope you guys are not complaining about this.
All right, I'm going to try not.
Paul Henrik never complains.
I'll get my act together. We've got to go back, and Joe remembers this. Mark, you might have been about 5 years old at the time, but 1999, the first afternoon game in this building, the playoffs, game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final, Toronto-Buffalo. Hasek is hurt, so Dwayne Rollison comes in and steals the show. Curtis Joseph played for the Leafs, but guys, that was a 3 p.m. start, not this bright and early 1 p.m.
That's right.
It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're ready to go. We're ready to go for a big game right here on Leafs TV. We had a great show ahead for you, including Paul Henrik's sit-down with the president of the St. Louis Blues, John Davidson. He's always a treat to speak with. Greg Millen will stop by and muse his Millen musings with us. He always has something to say with conviction. And Jason Blake, I had an opportunity to sit down with a rejuvenated Jason Blake. He talked about both changes on ice and off ice and was quite candid about how he felt last season as opposed to this season. And now we head downstairs, check in with Andi Petrillo. Andi, what do you got on tonight's show?
Well, first, Jody, I want to know where my bio is. How come everyone else has a bio, I don't have a bio? I see how it's going to be. Well, later on in the show, I'll be talking to the goaltending coach for the St. Louis Blues, Rick Wamsley. He got his career started with the Montreal Canadiens, moved on over to the Blues, and then actually won the Cup with the Calgary Flames in 1989, backstopping Mike Vernon. And then he came to Toronto and was the backup goaltender for Felix Potvin, so he'll be stopping by a little later on. We'll get his thoughts on his two goaltenders, Manny Legacy and Chris Mason. Jody?
Okay, I've made the call. Next show, you'll have your bio up right there. I just paid Joe Bowen a loony. It's
$1 every time. Yeah, you say tonight, and it's not. It's this afternoon.
This afternoon. Well, right now, it's time for the headlines. They're brought to you by Ford. They're powered by you. And you take it from here.
Jody, well, rebounding from a big loss. And Joe, how do teams forget about those big losses like Saturday night, yet learn from them moving forward?
You've got to have a case of amnesia, that's for sure. And it's like being a closer in baseball. Forget about it. It's gone. It's done. You're playing another 82 games this afternoon, and you better be ready. Now, you will be reminded of some mistakes when the video starts to be shown, but the rest of it, you got to have a short memory. And that's the biggest part about this. Get over it. Get on with it.
Well, the Leafs certainly hoping for bigger and better things as a result of what happened here on Saturday night. Again, 6-1 the final score now. As we go to headline number 2, Mark Morrow, patience will be required with so much youth on this Maple Leaf roster. How realistic should our expectations be going from game to game?
That's a great question because I don't know how realistic they should be. The fact of the matter is this team hasn't had a lot of time to practice, regardless of the youth, of the veteran experience within them. They have a new coach, new systems to employ, and until this week, this will be the first time where they're able to practice 3 times in a row and they can really work on these systems, work on the specialty teams. They haven't had an opportunity to do that. It's been a feeling out process for everybody involved. The coaches getting to know the players getting to know the coaches and each other, develop some chemistry, and it's been such a quick training camp that you have to have patience regardless of the type of team you have out there.
Well, we've touched on headline number 3 just a wee bit, Jody, and times are changing. And Joe, how difficult do you think is it to adjust to these varying game times that take players away from their usual game time routine?
Well, it is different, and I know Mark has given us the hard time about what it's like in the American Hockey League, but they are creatures of habit in the National Hockey League. Everybody wants to come to the pregame skate, although it is a complete waste of time most times, but it's just a matter of getting out there and being on the ice and doing a few things. The other thing that, and this is true, most general managers, certainly in the States, do not want to play at home during the Thanksgiving weekend because of the situation of having family and friends, turkey about this big, and various other things going on at home. And it becomes a bit of a difficult thing maybe to make sure everybody is motivated and ready to go.
Well, I will tell you one advantage the Leafs do have, though, and that's with Ron Wilson. He likes to have his morning practices, especially on the day before a game, start at noon. Most coaches start at 10, 10:30 at the latest. Ron Wilson has been running practice at noon, so it shouldn't be that big of an adjustment. It's not like these guys are sitting at home at 1 o'clock on a regular basis having naps. They are actually in work mode, so it shouldn't be that big an adjustment for them today.
Well, some of the adjustment will be adjusting to being with their families earlier this evening. That includes the players as well. Greg Millen, as Jody has mentioned, will be here shortly to talk about his musings, and they're always different, and we'll see how Greg is the day after the big turkey feast up in Peterborough, Jody.
Oh, he'll be as grumpy as ever. You just know it. But somebody who wasn't grumpy, which we saw a little bit of grumpy last year, and for good reason from, is Jason Blake. He and I sat down the other day to have a quick chat, and he was quite candid about not just the changes off ice, but on ice and specifically in the room for this club.
It's a weird feeling in the room this year because we don't have, a captain per se. We don't have, older guys. It's just a mixture of guys, and I think it's been great so far. We haven't spent that much time together, and since training camp started, and guys have come together, and there's respect from the younger guys to the older guys, and the older guys to the young guys, and I don't know. For some reason, you just get that feeling that there's just this feeling in the room that just flows, and it's a good feeling, and I think in order to be successful, it's got to stay that way.
Of course, you're going to stay tuned for more from Jason Blake a little later on in this program as we count down to a 1 o'clock puck drop right here on Leafs TV. We've got to take a quick break. Guys, hang with me. We'll be back right after this.